Today on Let's Wrap.
Along the way, we made sure that we had things that were there to protect him, whether it was protective gear, there's chest guards, elbow guards, ankle and foot guard, all those different things where some kids will look at him when they're 9 years old and be like, why are you wearing that now? But it was something that was necessary for us to do what we could to protect him.
Shannon Cassada shares her experiences as the mother of 2 sons with hemophilia and their love of sports. As an employee of HPC, she demonstrates the importance of being connected in the community, whether with her son's athletics, being an advocate at the state legislature, or attending summer camp, where kids learn how to infuse themselves.
Today on Let's Wrap, we're talking with Shannon Cassada, a sales rep for HPC Specialty Infusion. Shannon, we want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're actually recording from HPC in Memphis, Tennessee, and I know Tennessee is a big part of the territory that you cover. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with HPC?
Yes, HPC is a great company to work for. I feel like they're very family-friendly oriented and know how to really take care of their patients. I've been here for about 3 years, and I've loved every minute of it so far.
And I know you have a special connection to hemophilia, in particular, your family, 2 of your sons have hemophilia. Can you take us back to when they were first diagnosed and kind of your own personal story around that?
Sure. So we do not have any family history with bleeding disorders. And our first son was born, and there were a lot of signs that he might have a bleeding disorder, but not being educated or having anybody around us who knew about it. We survived 2 years not knowing. So my oldest son, Tegan, had his 2nd birthday and had a large hematoma on his rib cage. We took him to the doctor, and we had already asked lots of questions to, in regards to bruising, even mouth bleeds and that kind of stuff over those 2 years, but we never got a definitive answer. So we took him to the doctor. We ended up bypassing our local town and going to a larger hospital. And they immediately wanted to run blood tests, which I thought was weird because I thought maybe he had a broken rib or something like that. When they did the preliminary blood tests, the PT and PTT levels, they found out that there was going to be some sort of bleeding disorder. So they referred us to a hematologist. From there, it was a whirlwind. We went and we had the actual blood test done to find out if they had a bleeding disorder and what type and the severity. When it came back that he was a severe hemophiliac, type B, it was shocking to them and us. We had a great doctor that was in the emergency room that told us a lot of things. Don't go and look on the internet and Google hemophilia or bleeding disorders. There's a lot of scary stuff out there too. That was great advice, I think. We went to some of the pediatric sites, and then the team that was there with us was amazing to help educate us and just get us through that time. So it was not quite as emotional the first time because I felt like I just needed to know how to take care of my child and move forward. With my second son, we knew to have him tested right away when he was born. And at that time, I was like, I don't want another kid with a bleeding disorder. This is scary. We've already been through a lot. And it was a lot more emotional. Now I wouldn't trade it because the 2 boys have a camaraderie that they share, and they talk it out. They work through infusions together. They share their trials and tribulations, per se, I guess. And they even infuse each other, which is crazy, 16 and 13 years old to do that.
Yes.
So it's been a lot.
I would guess so. And obviously it came as a big shock to you through your experience. What advice would you give other families that are, may experience something similar, just have no idea, and then they get this diagnosis?
Yeah. There are families out there who get this information and it becomes a fear. Also, there's that guilt, especially I'm a carrier, so I pass that on to my children. And the people that were there with me holding my hand were, told me all of these emotions at the beginning and were able to tell me, it's okay, it's not your fault, don't feel this. And I appreciated that. I also appreciated the 2 years that we had without a diagnosis because I knew that my child could survive beyond his bleeding disorder. That was not going to carry us, control our lives, and that we could make it. So I felt like that was a blessing in disguise. It was also scary to know that we went through 2 years like that. But my advice would be just allow teach your children about the bleeding disorder. Allow them to live their lives without being naive, but work with your clinical staff, know what's best for them, and you'll make it. You don't have to be that helicopter parent. Again, like I said, don't be naive because things do happen, but your kid can make it and they can survive.
And as you're going through this process, there have been a lot of advancements, in treating hemophiliacs. What have you learned about maybe what your boys, can do and the treatment they've received versus maybe someone who was born, 20, 30 years ago or even longer?
Yeah, it's the advancements in medicine today is amazing. When we first started treating our kids at home, we were on demand at first and do those infusions at home. We were on a twice a week regimen, and that was a lot with 2 kids. And they were small, they were scared of the needle, and it took a lot out of everybody. It was not just one and done and you're good. It was exhausting. But the advancements today, they only infuse once a week, maybe a little bit longer in between. And we have looked at the blood work that after the infusions at the beginning of this, and it has allowed us to see the levels and that they're maintained in their body and that they're able to stay protected while they're doing what they love.
So they can kind of see firsthand the benefits of the treatment and kind of monitor their own health in a way?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we don't do the blood work at home, but yes. And I've also been very active in making them know their bodies, and it being an open conversation where they're comfortable to come to me and say, hey, I think I'm dealing with something before it gets too late to take care, to deal with an issue.
Definitely. So Tegan and Raleigh, your 2 oldest, are 16 and 13 and have pursued sports, particularly baseball. And I know you said Raleigh, the youngest, plays basketball. Can you talk about the process of, when they probably first came to you and said, can we play sports? And I know that there has been discussion before, some parents may be fearful and concerned, but what was that process like?
Yeah. We started out with Tegan when he was 3.5 playing baseball. So it was something that we thought, he's young. It's not that evasive. It became a love for him. So we, along the way, made sure that we had things that were there to protect him, whether it was protective gear, there's chest guards, elbow guards, your ankle and foot guard, all those different things where some kids will look at him when they're 9 years old and be like, why are you wearing that now? But it was something that was necessary for us to do what we could to protect them. Chin guard to protect their face as the pitches come in their way. They still get hit. They still have issues along the way, but it's something that we have been very proactive with our doctors and then the boys as well to figure out what works best for them. We have always said if there comes a time where that's not going to work, it's okay for them to stop because we don't want them to push their bodies further than they feel like. Tegan has aspirations to go on to college and play baseball. Raleigh probably will do the same, but he's only in 7th grade, so he has some time to get there. But he knows what he has to do to take care of his body. He knows that he has to keep his joints and muscles and body strong so that he can stay healthy with his bleeding disorder. And he researches some of it himself. He finds other hemophiliacs who are out there playing these sports at a higher level. And I appreciate that he's taken on that responsibility himself also.
What kind of joy, I guess, does it bring, your sons and your family to be this baseball family?
We love baseball, but I love that they can overcome the adversity that some others may not have. Whereas, you and I could go out and we could play a game. They have to work that much harder. And there are other things in the back of our minds always. There's injuries that we always think of, hey, is this a bleeding disorder or is this something else?
Right.
So that causes some difficulty as well. But you say baseball and it brings a smile to my face because that's our lives. And that's what I love is watching my kids play and enjoy something. So it's great.
By you being so active and involved as a parent, but also as an employee of HPC, has baseball and maybe some of their other activities been an opportunity to help educate other people about hemophilia?
Yeah, absolutely. I have had several conversations with younger parents who are thinking about allowing their children to play a sport, whether it's baseball, basketball. Some of them even talk about soccer. That's not something that we have pursued, but, someone else may. And I'm able to share what we have done along the way in stages. And I love being that person that can help and hold their hand. And there have been times in our lives where I felt like maybe a guinea pig. And it's great to be able to help somebody and not let them go through what maybe we have or try to prevent those things.
Your work with HPC, you said you've been with them about 3 years. What initially brought you to HPC?
I've been in the industry. And when I started having conversations with some people about HPC, and I just feel like I fit the culture here. I love that the other people that work here and the compassion that they have for the patients in the community and what they have to offer, and I wanted to be part of that team. And I'm so thankful that I got to be here.
And I know you've also done some work with the state regarding hemophilia, getting some designations. Can you talk about how did that start and what you've been able to do?
Yeah, it was actually amazing. It wasn't something that we had on the forefront of our mind, but we were involved in advocacy days with the Tennessee Foundation. And we took our boys, we'd like to take them so that they can see who's affected by these things as laws are being passed. And we went to visit with some of our local Senate and House reps. We had seen them around town at big activities and stuff, but it was cool to get to go to their office and visit. And they have a red tie event, so we hang out red ties representing bleeding disorders. And we went in and we spoke with a few of them. And we were just talking about how on a national level, bleeding disorder awareness was recognized in the month of March. And how cool would it be to do that in Tennessee? And one of the reps said, well, let's do it. And it kind of caught us by surprise because it just wasn't something, we were thinking about. And so we said, okay, let's do it. And every year since then, we send a message to one of their assistants and say, hey, we want to get this resolution renewed for this year. And we do it. We take our boys and we try to do a photo op and spread awareness during the month of March, especially. We get on the radio and spread it around town. And because there's so many people out there that go undiagnosed or they feel like they're alone, and we want them to know that we're here for them, and the state of Tennessee recognizes them as well. So.
And when people hear the message, is there one thing in particular you think, whether it's a representative or even someone at home, that they learn or understand better?
With the resolution, it's something that helps us during that time to spread awareness and advocacy, but also gives us an opportunity and a platform to talk about our bleeding disorder, for them to see our families, the person who's dealing with that, and not just hear about something, on the news, or you watch a TV show and you're not educated correctly. It gives us that opportunity to share. And I think that is probably one of the most important things. And we know that we have a community that backs us as well to be able to get out and spread that awareness.
And I know you spread awareness through other community events that HPC holds, and you're very active. Can you maybe talk about a couple of events that stand out in your mind that you really enjoy, or maybe that have happened recently?
So I just did an event on Saturday. It was baseball. Go figure, right? And we had a rep come, an educator, come and talk about baseball and their adversities and challenges and how they got past that. This guy actually played baseball in college as well, so it was really neat.
Yeah.
And a lot of the families that came out had active children or kids getting to that age. So it was really cool for them to see somebody who started young and share his story along the way, and that you can do it. And I'm sure my son was listening very intently, especially when he mentioned playing in college and what he did. So that was a really fun event to do. Just being together in these community events helps people. I think sometimes you learn better learning from other people's stories than sitting and listening to a hemophilia 101 or something like that.
Yes, definitely sharing that shared experiences and some similarities, but some differences too.
Yeah. And maybe something that you may not have thought about, that may be something that you need to look at later in life, the transitions from different ages and stages as well.
We hear a lot about HPC's wraparound care model. It's sort of one of the things that HPC is known for. When you go out and meet patients and providers and it sort of comes full circle, what do you think wraparound care means and what's the most impressive about it to you?
Something that I think that sets HPC apart is that we have our own nurses on staff. I can't say enough about our nurses. They have amazing relationships with our patients, and they probably know them better than we do sometimes. I try to do my best to know my patients, but if I have a question and I call my nurse is going to say, oh, yeah, they're da-da-da-da, So I think that's one of the biggest things and one of the hardest things working in the industry if you're a competitor of HPC. I love that about our company. We also have our patient advocates who are there to advocate with you if you need someone to walk into the doctor's office with you and help you, especially if you don't remember questions to ask that doctor. They're right there with you to help you along the way. We have social workers that will help with insurance issues and getting your copay assistance. Our reimbursement team is amazing at knowing the ins and outs of insurance. I'm thankful that that's not my job, but the people that do it are amazing at what they do. Our pharmacy staff, when I talk to the pharmacy, they know our patients by name, not a number, and they can say, okay, so they're going on vacation this date. What do we need to do to make sure they're taken care of beforehand? Or this kid's playing basketball. Do they need some extra medication on hand? It's a personal feel, and I love that about our wraparound care.
I know it's obvious what you have learned at home and how you've implemented that and can help others at HPC, whether doing business or community events. But then, is there anything that you've learned through your work at HPC that you've been able to take back home and maybe educate your boys about or help your whole family just by something you've learned through your work?
Yeah. We at HPC are encouraged to be part of a lot of the community events. And one of the biggest things I think that has helped me is working at camp and meeting other kids who have bleeding disorders. I take my HPC cap off for that week and I go and I just have a fun time. But one of the things that they do at camp is the Big Stick Award. It's so cool to see a 7-year-old sit down and stick a needle in his arm because he wants to learn how to infuse himself and take on that responsibility and that road to independence. When I first went to camp, my kids were not old enough to go to camp. I wanted to see what it was about. And in doing that, I stuck myself. When I went home, one of my boys had a port at the time and the port stopped working. And I was able to pick up a needle and stick him, not waste the medication, not have to run over to the ER and do that. And so that was a huge benefit to being allowed the opportunity to go and work with these kids, but also learn something that I could bring home to my family in the time of need.
Definitely. And I've heard so much about camp and the impacts for not just the kids, but the parents and employees.
Yes, camp is magical, to say the least. It's I get to work with the girls, which I have 3 boys at home, so hanging out with the girls for a week is a lot of fun. It's a lot of drama too, but I enjoy my girl time. We do glamour hour, and they'll want to play with my hair and paint my nails and all the stuff I would normally not let anybody do but a professional. But it's just a time to go, and everyone understands each other. They know if they're going through a bleed, that's just something that they're dealing with, and they'll be fine. But they're all the same. And it's probably one of the safest places on earth to go for kids. I say that, something could always happen, but the staff that's there to take care of the kids are educated, and they know so much about the bleeding disorder that there should be no fear or worry in the back of the minds of parents who are sending their kids to camp.
And I understand after 2 years of being either virtual or they didn't have camp at all, it's going to return in person.
Yes, it's going to be like a big family reunion, to say the least. I've seen a few of the campers along the way, and they're grown up or graduating high school, or just they've gone from that pigtailed little girl or little boy who's got braces to these kids who you watch develop into amazing young people. They don't realize when they're there that they're learning life skills too, but they are.
Well, is there anything else you would like to add about your family experience, your HPC experience?
I think if there was a family out there who is dealing with a new diagnosis, I would say insert yourself and become involved, not to, put you out there and throw you to the wolves, but there are people out there willing to share their stories, to hold your hand and guide you along the way so that you don't have to do it by yourself. If there's a question, if you are running to the emergency room at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's somebody there that can help you. If you have a question about what to do when you get there, we've probably been there, done that, or we probably know somebody who's dealt with that. So being able to be there for them is amazing. I think that being a part of the community, being an employee of HPC, I love that about my job. I'm passionate about what I do, and I always say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And it's great to be able to be a part of that.
Well, we want to thank you for taking time to join us today on Let's Wrap.
Thank you.
You've been listening to HPC's Let's Wrap, a podcast by HPC Specialty Infusion for patients and providers. We're proud to specialize in patient health and happiness at hpcspecialtypharmacy.com or call 1-800-757-9192.